Hi, hello, morning, and welcome to my channel. Today, let us discuss about summary of one of the best books ever you may heard.
All right, today we're stepping into the jury box. We're going to sharpen one of the most crucial skills you can have, critical thinking. It's all about learning how to consider the verdict, not just in some stuffy courtroom, but for every single argument that comes your way. So let's get right into it. I want you to imagine you're on a jury. The stakes? They're super high, and it's your job, your responsibility, to deliver a fair verdict. But here's the real question. Can you, with total confidence, tell the difference between a solid, truthful argument and one that's just designed to fool you? Because that's really the heart of the challenge, isn't it? Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to find the facts. But the obstacle, well, you're up against arguments that are specifically built to mislead, not to inform. And that's exactly where critical thinking becomes your superpower. Okay, welcome to the jury. We're now officially in session in what I like to call the courtroom of everyday arguments. From now on, we're going to treat every single claim we hear, doesn't matter if it's from a TV ad, a politician, or your uncle at dinner, as if it's being presented directly to us, the jury.
So, where do we even begin? Well, first things first, we've got to learn to spot the oldest tricks in the book. I'm talking about flawed arguments, logical fallacies. These are the courtroom tricks designed to do one thing: distract you from what actually matters.
Okay, let's kick things off with a real classic. Just imagine you're in court and you hear someone say this. You just listened to Joe make a really compelling case for vegetarianism, right? He's talking animal welfare, environmental impact, the whole deal. And then someone stands up and hits him with this. What's wrong with that picture? Yeah, what you just heard is a classic cheap shot. Instead of actually dealing with Joe's argument, the logic of it, the attack goes straight for the person. This is what we call an ad hominem fallacy. It's Latin for to the person, and honestly, it's just a pure and simple distraction. See the move they made there? It's a total switcheroo. The real question on the table is vegetarianism a sound ethical choice? But the attack completely ignores that and changes the subject to, is Joe a hypocrite? Look, whether Joe is a hypocrite or not has absolutely zero to do with whether his argument holds water. All right, here's another one for you, another classic courtroom trick. This little gem is adapted from an old mobile oil ad, and it sounds pretty bad, right? I mean, who in their right mind wants to destroy our forests? But hang on a second. Is that really what people who advocate for things like solar and wind power are actually saying? No, of course not. What the ad did was create a totally flimsy, distorted, and frankly, ridiculous version of their opponent's argument. They built up a straw man that's super easy to just knock right over. And that, my friends, is the straw man fallacy. It's when you defeat a fake, weaker argument instead of tackling the real one. And the deception becomes crystal clear when you just look at them side by side. The real argument is pretty reasonable, right? Conserve energy, use renewables. But the straw man? It's this completely absurd caricature about living on firewood. And let's be honest, it's way, way easier to fight a silly caricature than it is to have a real debate about a complex issue. All right, so spotting these flawed arguments is a huge first step. But being a good juror is about more than that. You also have to know exactly what question you're even trying to answer. You've got to stop and ask yourself, what is this argument actually trying to prove? Think about this classic ad for Total cereal. The claim itself seems pretty straightforward. Total has more vitamins than Raisin Bran. Okay, let's assume that's a fact. But what's the real point? What is that ad trying to get you, a member of the jury, to conclude from that single fact? Well, the ad is definitely implying that Total is the more nutritious cereal overall. But hold on. Does having more vitamins automatically mean it's more nutritious? Is that the only thing that counts? This feels a little like the prosecution is leading the witness. And guess what? The witness is you. And this is the crucial takeaway. The evidence they presented, more vitamins, only supports a very, very narrow conclusion about, well, vitamins. It tells us absolutely nothing about overall nutrition, which includes other really important things like fiber and sugar. A good argument has to support its specific conclusion. Everything else is just noise. Okay, this brings us to a really fundamental principle of any fair trial, something you've probably heard a million times: the burden of proof. We all know that in a courtroom, a defendant is innocent until proven guilty. It's up to the prosecution to prove their case. Well, guess what? That exact same rule applies to every single argument you'll ever hear. The person making the claim, any claim at all, is the one who has to provide the proof. It is not your job to prove they're wrong. It is 100% their job to prove they are right. You can really just boil it down to two simple steps. Step 1, the person making a positive claim has to provide the proof. Step 2, you do nothing. You're not required to prove them wrong. If they can't come up with the evidence, that's their failure, not yours. Now, when someone tries to flip this whole thing on its head, they're using something called the appeal to ignorance fallacy. And it's a really sneaky move to try and shift that burden of proof right onto your shoulders. They're basically arguing, hey, since you can't prove my claim is false, that means it must be true. Okay, this example is just fantastic. It's completely absurd, but it shows the flaw so perfectly. The argument is that since no one can prove there isn't a group of invisible aliens in the Indian Ocean, they must be there. I mean, come on! Just remember this. A lack of evidence against a claim is not evidence for a claim. The burden of proof is on the alien guy, not on you. So let's bring all this home. It's time to step out of our pretend courtroom and think about how we can apply these skills in the real world, in our daily lives. Because this stuff isn't just a fun mental exercise or something you see in courtroom dramas. These tactics, ad hominem attacks, straw men, shifting the burden of proof, they aren't just in movies. They are absolutely everywhere, every single day. I mean, just think about it. You see it in political debates that are all about personal attacks instead of actual policy. You see it in commercials that try to sell you something based on a totally irrelevant claim. These tactics are all over your social media feed, they're in news editorials, and yeah, they even pop up during family dinners. And this is why some people call critical thinking verbal self-defense, and I love that. The goal here isn't to learn how to win every argument you get into. It's about learning how to protect yourself from being fooled or manipulated by bad ones. Every day, you are the jury for countless claims that are all competing for your attention, for your belief. The arguments are presented constantly, so the only question left is, now that you know how to spot the tricks, what's your verdict going to be?
If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you.